Now, so the plan, I've talked about this a little bit in some online postings, but in case you didn't see that, when the center got started, the plan was to provide opportunities for people to have multiple different ways to engage and different practices and things to kind of rotate around different. You want to scoot it? You can just get chummy with Ed, then you can see. This I know this layout, the 3x3 layout is the problem. I need to work on this. Rotate around different things every week of the month, and the idea was the fifth week of the month would be for this thing called Kido Chanting, and thinking that would have, every few months, and not thinking about how rarely, actually, obviously it varies from year to year, but how rarely there were actually fifth weeks in the month. So this is actually the first time we've had a fifth Wednesday since we've sort of been having in-person stuff happening in January. So since this is the first time for this Kido Chanting thing, rather than just kind of jumping into it and assuming everybody knows what's going on, obviously I need to kind of explain what it is and talk about it a little bit and how it's done in a group setting like this one, but also how you can do it as a personal practice, how this is something that you can do on your own. And that's something I'd encourage you to consider. I mean, we're just started with the full moon service that was on the weekend. We're now into the period of Dongongo, of the winter intensive, and this is the idea, is that people deepen their practice and meditate more and find new things to do and so on. So adding Kido Chanting to your daily routine would be one way that you could do that to intensify your practice. So the little piece of paper that's stuck in the front of that there is just a couple of pages that I printed out from the American European Parish Service Manual, which was created by Bubmi Sunim, who's one of the monks up at Muddy Water, actually, for the use of the whole parish all over, everywhere in the world that's not Korea. So that's where that actually comes from. So let me start with the word first, the word Kido, because there's some debate about the word Kido, this term. There's two different interpretations. They're complementary, but they're different interpretations of what it means. The problem is that there are two different Chinese characters, two different Hanja, that are both pronounced Kido, and which one does the Korean word Kido actually represent? In the West, you usually see it translated as the way of energy or energy way. Ki is the same word as the Chinese word qi, as in Tai Chi or raising the qi, like Bruce Lee, something like that. Ki is the Korean version of that. So that means energy, the spiritual energy of the body is what that's referring to. What's housed in that dangjong, right? That's the center of the ki. Do is the Korean pronunciation of the Chinese word Dao, which means, as in Dao De Jing or Taoism, which means way, so way of energy. So the idea is using sound through chanting as a way to generate energy, spiritual energy. Right? But there's a totally other Chinese character, pair of characters, that's pronounced Kido, that simply means prayer or worship, right? So Kido can mean both of those things at the same time. In the West, it's usually probably that way of energy thing, because a lot of Western convert Buddhists still have bad feelings about their childhood spiritual religious upbringings and don't like prayer or whatever, so they prefer the other term. There are actually two different practices in Korean Buddhism that fit under this heading of Kido Chanting. And so to talk about that, I'm going to refer to, I've mentioned this before, but not since some of you have been here, one of my favorite books in the world, which is in the part of the shelf you can't borrow from, because this would be really hard to replace. 6 Ways to the Heart, The Essence of the Korean Buddhist Practices, which is published by, there's this association of all the different Buddhist orders in Korea that publishes a few books in English. So there's a couple of chapters in that book that talk about things that would fall under this heading of Kido Chanting. The first one is what's called Yombol. That's the Korean for, the Sanskrit term is Buddha Sati, Buddha invocation. Right? The Jogya orders which is the biggest Buddhist order in Korea, is the Jogya order. Their English website says, Yombol, or recitation of the names of the Buddhas, is to chant the name of a specific Buddha while single-mindedly thinking of him with one's whole being. So this practice involves repeatedly reciting the name of a Buddha or a Bodhisattva in a rhythmic manner, usually to kind of a simple tune, sort of a simple repeated kind of a tune. This can be done for a certain number of repetitions. 108 is a really common number, but you could do 1,000, 10,000, or a certain length of time, right, to establish a certain amount of time, 5 minutes, a half an hour, something like that. Sometimes just the name is chanted, such as Sogamuni Bul. Sogamuni Bul is the Korean pronunciation of the name of Shakyamuni, of the historical Buddha. Sogamuni Bul is the Korean way to say his name. Or Kwan Seon Bosal. Kwan Seon Bosal is the Korean name for Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, right, the goddess of compassion. Sometimes Namu gets put in the front of the name, which I know sounds like name, but actually it means homage to or taking refuge in, such as Namu Jijeng Bo Sal. Jijeng Bo Sal is one of the other bodhisattvas up here. Shittigarbha Bodhisattva, the one who helps beings passing between the worlds, between lives. Usually that Namu thing is put on the front just to kind of get the rhythm right, get the right meter, so you have the right number of syllables, so it works a little better for the chanting. In terms of the tune, to keep it simple, you can just do it on one note. You can do it kind of Japanese style, sort of monotonically. Just do it on one note. And as a solitary practice, that's certainly a way that you can do this. Just sort of, most people have one note that sort of feels most natural to them, sort of the easiest note for their voice to make, and sort of has the nicest resonance inside their head or whatever. So just kind of find that note and just stay on that note and just chant the name. Namu Jijeng Bo Sal, Namu Jijeng Bo Sal, Namu Jijeng Bo Sal, Namu Jijeng Bo Sal. Then that's a perfectly fine way to do this. More commonly in Korea, though, there's a little tune, there's a little melody that goes with this that's usually 3 or 4 repetitions long, and it's usually based on just kind of 4 notes. So the 4-note chanting system that I've kind of based the liturgy manual, the book that we have here on, is actually inspired by that idea of just kind of 4 notes. And again, three or 4 repetitions, because 108, which again is kind of a traditional number for how many times to do these sorts of things, is nicely divisible by both 3 and 4. So if you have a 3-note tune or a 4 or a 3 sort of a 3-measure tune or a 4-measure tune, it falls nicely within that. I'm going to show you, and the reason that works is because that fits with how many beads are on a standard mala, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. So I'm going to actually show you I'm going to demonstrate for you. We're going to do 2 different versions of this kind of simple tune thing. One of them, the first one is the very first one I ever learned from Heido Sunim at Muddy Water Temple. The other one I learned from Heijin Sunim. He's the monk who heads the Taego Zen Center that's in New Jersey. So let me just show you both of these. So again, these are just based on the idea of 4 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, just 4 simple notes. So I think probably the easier one, bless you, that has kind of 4 repetitions. Well, let me give you numbers first, and then we can talk about words, because if you think about the numbers, it may make it easier to remember. So think about it in terms of 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, 1, 4, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Join in with me if you don't mind. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, 1, 4, 3, 3, 3. So that's that one, and you can use that to do this Yombul chanting of a name. Kwan Seum Bo So, 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 Kwan Seum Bo So. So that one's fairly easy. That's the one I learned from Heido Sanim. The one I learned from Heijun Sanim, it's the same. It's the same four notes. This one kind of works its way down and back up again. 1 2 2 2 2 3 4 4 4 2 2 2 1 2 2 2 2 3 4 4 4 2 2 2 1 2 2 2 2 3 4 4 4 2 2 2. So again, that's an easy one to do with, for example, so ga muni bu, 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 so ga muni bu. Okay. Now, an important thing to keep in mind here is those notes that I'm doing are just the ones that work for my voice. There's no this is all about kind of relative pitch, right? Kind of four notes relative to one another. There's no sheet music for this, right? There's no specific note that you're supposed to sing. I use the pitches I do because my voice sucks and my range isn't very good, and that's where it works for me, right? So if you need to go higher or lower, when I'm chanting by myself and I'm not worried about projecting quite so much, I usually go a lot lower, right? But I can't sing that loud when I go lower, so I got to go a little higher so you guys can hear me. So you can use whatever pitches work for you. Whatever feels natural, doesn't strain your voice, allows you to maintain for the duration of however long it is that you want to do this. In a group setting, so folks can stay together, it's common for the chanting to be accompanied by the moktak, to just keep everybody together, usually just with a simple sort of on 1 and 3 of the measures sort of thing, just sort of so ga muni bu, 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 just to provide a rhythm so that everybody can stay together. Now, if you were to do a long session of this Kido chanting, such as at some temples in Korea, they'll do kind of retreats that are all just based on Kido chanting, where you'll do Kido chanting for like hours, right? So when you're doing a long Kido chanting session, usually it begins with chanting a text called the Thousand Eyes and Hands Sutra. The Thousand Eyes and Hands Sutra is sort of a prayer it's addressed to Kwanseum Bosal, the Bodhisattva of Compassion. The name of it, Thousand Eyes and Hands, is a reference to the idea that sometimes the Bodhisattva of Compassion is portrayed with lots of arms and multiple heads. The idea being multiple arms means that she's ready for action, and multiple heads with multiple eyes and multiple ears means that she sees and hears everything. So it's supposed to represent the idea of this embodiment of compassion, being ready to sort of be aware of all beings suffering and be ready to act on their behalf and help to deal with their suffering. So just that one beginning bit, the Thousand Eyes and Hands Sutra, it takes 10 or 15 minutes, depending on how fast you're going, the tempo. And then one or more Buddhas or Bodhisattvas' names would be chanted for extended periods of time after that, and that would be the practice. On your own, obviously, you could just do Yombo by itself. For example, part of my practice every morning, after I sit and I do some other chanting things, I do 108 repetitions of a Buddha or Bodhisattva's names. Most of the time it's Sogamuni Bull. There are days of the lunar month in Korea that are dedicated to particular Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, so if it's one of their days, I'll do their name. But most of the time it's Sogamuni Bull, such as Amitabha, on the full moon and new moon calendar days. Those are dedicated to Amitabha, Amida Buddha, the Buddha of the Western Pure Land. So those are ways that you can incorporate that kind of practice into your practice. The other kind of Kido chanting, which uses a word you guys be more likely to be already familiar with, is mantra recitation practice. And again, there's a whole chapter in this book about mantra recitation practice. It's similar to Yumble practice in that it's a short phrase that's repeated, but it's not a name. So again, the Jogya order on their English website, this is what they have to say about mantras. A mantra or a short dharani is kind of a prayer, is a mystical utterance. They are esoteric words or true words of the Buddha. The words contain mysterious power. When words properly convey the human mind, they can exert strong power. Within a mantra, the vows of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are condensed. Thus, mantras have transcendental, sacred, and mysterious powers. By reciting mantras, practitioners can attain mysterious powers which will eventually lead them to Buddhahood. That's why, in principle, mantras cannot be perfectly translated into any language, right? It's more just sort of power through sound that's not actually about the meaning of it at all. It's about kind of the vibration and the energy that's in the sounds themselves. There are three mantras that are most commonly used in Korean Buddhism. There's a whole bunch of them, as you can see on the paper that you got. But there's three that are used most commonly. One of them is the one we just did, right at the end of the Heart Sutra, the Heart Sutra mantra, right? Gate, gate, para, gate, parasam, gate, bodhis. And you don't have to do it at a dirge like we do it when we're doing the Heart Sutra. You can do it at a much faster clip. If you go online, you might find there's this, what's his name? Hungak Sunim. Hungak Sunim in Germany. There's this American guy who was in Korea for years, and now he's in Germany. And if you go online, there's a video on YouTube of him going, gate, 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 parasam gate, bodhisvara, gate, 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 parasam gate, bodhisvara, for like an hour. I don't know. So you can do it at a rapid pace if that's what feels right. And you could just keep going with that mantra. You could do that mantra 108 times. The second one, which is one you may have heard, I know you've heard it because it's also used in the Tibetan tradition a lot, which is the mantra of Avalokiteshvara, of Kwanseum Bosal. The Sanskrit version of it is Om Mani Padme Hum, right? The Korean pronunciation of that is Om Mani Padme Hum, but it means the same thing. So you can go either way with that one. So that's a really commonly used mantra. The third one is the mantra of Medicine Buddha, which is on your sheet there that I gave you as well. Yaksa Yorebo, the Medicine Buddha, kind of a healing kind of a chant for yourself or someone else. Om Baishajye, Baishajye, Baishajye Samudgate Svaha. And that one's a little bit long. That one doesn't fit neatly into one of the little tunes. That's a good one to just sort of pick a note and just stay on that note and sort of feel it in your body. So you can do these mantras, well, most of these mantras can work on the same kind of tunes that we were using a minute ago for the Yombo practice. For example, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. So you can use those same tunes that we were talking about a minute ago for the mantras as well. Another way to use a mantra, though, is to really feel it in your body, is to go deep and slow. Go kind of right down to the bottom of your voice, where it almost feel, maybe you can't really even get that much sound out, but you can sort of feel it in your chest. You can sort of feel the vibration. It's like somebody hitting a bass drum somewhere, and you can feel it in your chest. Just go right down to the bottom of your voice where it just sort of becomes that rumble in your chest as much as it is a sound in your ear, and do it slowly. You can do it on, for example, Om Mani Padme Hum is sort of one. Do it as slowly as you can do it in a single breath, right? Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Or if you really want to go deep into it, you could do each word on a separate breath, right? Om Mani Padme Hum. Right, and where you can just sort of feel it really down in your body. So in terms of doing this kind of practice, either Yombo practice or mantra practice, you can do the chanting, you can chant it totally in your mind, right? You can just hear your voice in your head and not actually do it out loud at all. If you're ever in Korea, it's really common. Where'd it go? It's common in Korea to see monks and nuns walking around with beads that look like this. These great big huge kind of simple kind of mala thing, and they'll just be going about their day doing whatever, and they're just doing like this constantly, because somewhere in the back of their mind they're chanting the whole time, the whole day. It's like Paul said in the Bible, pray unceasingly, right? That's their practice, right? They're doing that all day long, just sort of chanting inside their heads. You can chant just in a whisper, right? When I had a house full of children here, I was doing a lot of that kind of chanting, just chanting in a whisper, so I wasn't waking anybody up. That works perfectly fine. Or obviously you can chant sort of in your full voice, right? And depending on the context and the setting, that can be. If you've ever had the experience of singing with a bunch of people or that sort of thing, chanting with. Well, you know this from Zen Mountain, right? 120 people in a room chanting together, and you're hearing the vibrations. The walls are shaking, and it's a powerful experience. And you can, when you have that kind of experience, you can relate to somebody was talking to me about transcendental meditation. Talking about transcendental meditation the other day. The transcendental meditation idea, if enough people meditate together, it generates enough energy that it'll actually kind of, make things happen and change the world. And when you start chanting with a room full of people, it really feels like you're doing that, right? That there's energy that's sort of gathering here that does feel like it could do something. It could change the world. So to give you a sense of what this is like, if you look under your mat, you don't need one, you've got your own. But if you kind of reach under your mat, reach under the front of your mat, you're going to find a lunar mala. You don't get to keep that. But that's a lunar mala. Just to kind of give you the experience here of practicing what this is like. So the idea behind the beads is there's 108 of there's actually 109 beads, because that middle one that actually has the tassel on it doesn't count. That's the Buddha bead or the Guru bead. But the other ones, there's 108 of the smaller beads. So the idea is, if you want to recite a name of a Buddha, or if you're going to chant a mala 108 times, just like somebody praying the rosary, it's the same kind of spiritual technology. You don't have to count. You don't have to keep track. You can just move your hand, right? And it does it for you, and you can just focus on the practice. So what let's do here, we'll do kind of the simpler chant. And so the idea is you can just kind of, you got to think about what works for your hand or whatever. What I usually do this is just kind of put the bead I'm counting between my three fingers, and I've got my pinky and my other fingers down here, so that as I'm shifting, I can kind of grip it with my pinky, so I can kind of move my hand along, right? But whatever works for you in your hand. Obviously, different beads have different sizes and how tight they are, and whether they're loose on the string or knotted in between them or whatever. So I want to practice this with me, and if you want to do it quietly, you're welcome to do it quietly. Or if you want to belt it out, you're welcome to belt it out. And if you want to listen for a second and then jump in, you're welcome to do that too. So we're going to do Namo Amitabha, since it was just recently full moon. We'll go through the mala 108 times. I'll go at a reasonable clip, so it won't take half an hour. And we're going to do it on the four sort of measure version of the tune. So I'll get us started, and you can come in with me. Namo Amitabha, 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 Namo Amitabha. Thank you. So I want to, just to close this out, I want to read one little thing to you from this book. I'm going to tell a couple of you stories about the malas that you have, and we're done tonight, by the way. So this is from this 6 Ways to the Heart book. Situations that are completely beyond our control unavoidably happen to all of us. We fell prey to sudden illnesses or are caught in hapless accidents. We are ambushed by an abrupt loss of something or someone dear to us. Achievements of a lifetime go up in smoke. Sometimes we are face to face with death, suddenly staring right into its eyes. When our backs are despairingly to the wall, it is virtually impossible to think or react with calm poise and cool reason. Except for a rare few who have attained deep samadhi and unshakable prajna, we sink into the bottomless pit of sorrow or wail in abysmal fear. However, bitter tears and frantic clamoring will not solve the problem. They just invite even more grief and greater panic. If this happens, call upon the Buddha and Bodhisattvas. They take an oath that I shall remove all traces of torment and fear from all sentient beings. If you are sincere and earnest, they will answer our call without fail. They will end the reign of terror and heal the tears inside of you and put the smile of a Buddha on your lips.